I think it's really important. And I always like to explain to anyone I work with that it's a revenue pie. Many, many slices is always better than one big chunk.
As creators, it's easy to focus on creating content and to hope and pray for views, subscribers, and making money. It's a terrible business model. If we really want to achieve the income and the impact that we know is possible, then we've got to play a bigger game. Shelly Saves the Day began in the world of computer programming and expanded to manage projects and teams at Amazon, Google, and TubeBuddy. She's a speaker, creator, and coach who specializes in helping creators to share what they love with the world through video and to make money while doing it. For that to happen, we have to multiply our content and multiply our income without going crazy in the process. Start taking notes and start imagining what's possible for you in this conversation with Shelly Saves the Day. Welcome to the Story Greenlight podcast, where we're all about empowering creators like you to tell your stories, connect with your audience, and create the impact that you were put on this planet to make. My name is Jeff Barch. I'm a coach, author, and entrepreneur with over 20 years of experience shaping content for ABC, NBC, Universal, Disney, Apple, and a whole bunch of others. My team and I support YouTube creators with followings in the hundreds to the many millions. At Story Greenlight, we believe that you matter, your message matters, and the world needs to hear what you have to say. All right, Shelly, who is about to save our collective day. How are you doing? Good to see you.
I'm doing awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here today.
Fantastic. Now, I got to tell you, we met in person last fall at People of Video Conference and has some interaction ever since. But I got to tell you, I am curious because I've been doing some sneaking around. I've been doing some snooping on your LinkedIn profile and all the things. And you have a really, really cool background. And you've ended up in a place that most people might not have expected. So for people who are not familiar with you, other than what they've already heard in the introduction, how does someone with a background in computer programming end up in content creation?
Well, you know what? Ironically, it's because of the computer programming that I officially became a content creator. And when I was applying for a coding boot camp, one of the requirements was to answer this set of 5 questions, and you had to do it in a video as an unlisted or public video on YouTube. So that was actually the first time I ever hit publish on a YouTube video, was to actually apply for this coding school that I went to. And then it just kind of trickled on from there.
Wow.
Right? It's very like, interesting.
Who knew? So, okay. So just lay down some of your background for as of right now. So you started going out to coding school. How did you start? How did you begin at that place, and where did you go after coding school?
It's interesting. When I talk to people, I feel like they'll tell me a little bit about themselves and their jobs, and I'll be like, oh, I've done that. Or because you know what, where you just have that, you just aren't satisfied and you want to keep learning, keep growing, keep doing new things. Maybe some people aren't like that. Some people stay at their jobs for 40 years and that's great. I am always someone who's like, okay, I've tried this. I like it. Maybe I want to try and move and grow. And so I've, been a real estate agent in my previous life. I worked, for 10 years in retail store manager. I became a coder, but then I ended up being a technical program manager at some of these, large tech companies. And then after that, I was like, okay, content creator. And then I even took a job at a large company being a content creator. So it's been like, I've done a little bit of everything in my life. So when people start talking about like, oh, I'm not sure about content creation in this way or this form, I'm like, oh, I've got an idea for you. I always have too many ideas. That's the problem. Too many ideas.
Fair enough. So for people who aren't, for people following along at home, Shelly is actually being very, she's being very humble. I mean, she's worked in systems management for Amazon and for Google. So what on earth does that mean?
So technical program managers, They basically are able to speak to the developers and coders, and because of my background with coding, I was able to speak that language, and then they translate it into English for program managers and people, and then they're able to help guesstimate what timelines look like, what a roadmap looks like, and then help communicate and liaison between everybody while still being able to make sure everyone is on the same page and understand the timeline. So that's really what we do, but you have to have a foot into, you have to know a little bit about coding. So when they try and say something about like, oh, this will take 2 months, you're like, I don't think so. Or maybe it will, because
Right.
sometimes tasks take as long as you will give them. And then, being able to tell sometimes higher ups who are waiting on these things, why can't I have this thing yet? And you're like, well, there's all these moving pieces and we have to do them sequentially. You can't just, one of the things that would happen at one of my jobs, we would be one of the last steps that people would think of before they would product launch. And I'd be like, oh, I'm so sorry, Susie. You are 5 weeks now behind schedule because you needed to come to us first and you haven't integrated. And that's going to take at least 4 to 5 weeks. And people would just be like, what? And I'm like, yeah, exactly. That face is like, no, we have a launch date. And I'm like, you had a launch date. You have a new updated launch date, which you're going to have to modify or throw more bodies at it to hit this new timeline. So
Wow.
being able to explain that calmly to people who are very invested is a skill. So you learn lots of fun skills.
Well, you know what? You basically just described what in the entertainment industry would basically be a producer.
Yeah.
In all the different variations. I mean, good grief, there are 83,000 different flavors of producers, but the idea of traffic cop and speaking the different languages and keeping everything moving and keeping everyone on the same page, and that's an important thing that a lot of people don't really, they don't value that until they get until they end up working with a producer or a program manager who doesn't know what they're doing.
Yeah. I've seen that too.
I think we all have our horror stories for sure. So, so you were working in these roles for places like Amazon and for Google, and then you moved to TubeBuddy.
Yeah, I did.
What happened? How did that jump happen? And what was that like at TubeBuddy? Because pretty much anyone in the Story Greenlight community knows TubeBuddy.
I think especially if you're a creator on YouTube, TubeBuddy. They're so great, and the product is so great. And so what happened was, unfortunately or fortunately, I don't know which way you want to think about it, I just can't control my mouth sometimes. And sometimes my mouth, it comes out in my fingertips when I'm typing things. So one of the things that happened, funnily enough, was they were doing, TubeBuddy was doing a roundtable of creators. I think they were at some sort of conference, and it was all men on this panel. And my entire working life, it has always been male dominated industries, whether it's retail management in consumer electronics stores, like you just don't sometimes see a lot of females or females in higher up manager type or store manager positions. And what would happen is they had this roundtable of all men. And I'm like, look, I love all of these people on this panel. I listen to all of them. I'm subscribed to all of them, but there's not a single female, like at all, anywhere. Like, help us out here. Like, we need some representation,
For sure.
And I think it's important. You want to see it, and you want to have these differing perspectives. And so I said this, and then later I got a message from Phil at TubeBuddy, and he was like, hey, I saw your message, and he's like, it's not that maybe, the typical stuff where it's like, oh, we don't have a lot in the pipeline, or we didn't have anyone here. And I'm like, well, obviously you didn't have anyone here, that's why I said something. But he's like, well, we're always looking for people to talk about our product. If you ever wanted to make a video talking about how you use TubeBuddy, we'd love to see it. And I'm like, I'm sure you would, but don't you threaten me with a good time. I'll do it. Yeah. So I did. I made a video on TubeBuddy, a couple of things. And then in the same Facebook group, they had posted, oh, we happen to have this one extra ticket to VidCon. So the first person to comment, just message us here and we'll give you a ticket. You just have to fly yourself down here. So I ended up being the second person to comment, but Phil actually messaged me and he's like, hey, I saw that you didn't comment first, but I know you've been a supporter, you made a video, so how about this? I'll get you your own ticket, and if you get down here, yeah, And so I got to go down there and meet him and his brother and talk about some of the stuff I did and didn't like, because you would think like, "Oh, I'm so grateful. Thank you so much." I was like, "Let me tell you how you need to fix your product, and here's what I don't like." And they're like, oh, he's so nice. He's always like, "Okay, I'm taking notes." And I was like, "You can't do this on mobile." And his brother was like, "Yeah, you can." I was like, "Show me." And then they showed me, and then I ended up making a video on that too, because I was like, well, this is not obvious. This is not a user-friendly experience. And of course, they're like, okay, I'm taking notes.
Yeah.
But I made a few videos over the course of like maybe a year. And then later I told him at Vid Summit, which is Daryl Eves' conference. I'm so sorry. This is the longest story ever, but this train is going someplace.
Hey,
I promise.
that's why we're here. This is what we're about. Good things.
So we had a talk at Vid Summit, Phil and I was just like, hey, look, you don't have enough females ever. Sorry. I mean, this is how it all started, right? Because like everyone that was at the conference, when we were at Vid Con, everyone at the booth, everyone that's on your channel, everyone that's on your roundtables, nary a woman to be found. And he was like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
And then he contacted me about a month later and he said, we're going to do a month of live streaming with special guests, all females. You're helping inspire this. And I was like, dude, that's so cool. And he's like, do you want to be on it? And I was like, heck yeah, I do. And after that, which it was a fantastic month, it was in November. And then, because I was like, it's not often that you tell someone or a company something and they just take action and change it. You know what I mean? It's so cool that they did that. And then he contacted me the month after that and he said, hey, we're thinking of putting together a panel of people to do some rotating educational stuff on our channel live streams. Do you want to be in this? And I was like, heck yeah, I do. And so I started being in this rotation of 6, 7 people. And so every couple of months or so, I would go on and do an educational tutorial and do something like half an hour of education, half an hour of questions. And so I'd been in the TubeBuddy community for then a couple of years. And then I became a part of a YouTube mastermind group, which I think is really important. Sometimes you need to talk with people who are in the same type of industry or position that you're in.
Sure.
And one of the people ended up taking a job there. And then later when their main on-screen person left, they contacted me because they knew I wasn't super happy at my job anyway. And they were like, hey, we've got an opening. And that kind of elbow nudge. And I was like, maybe I should do this. And it was a significant pay decrease, but I was just like, but I'm in the industry I want to, be in, and I get to talk about education and I get to help people and I get to do it with a tool and with a group of people that I really like. This sounds like a win-win-win, except for the money part. So I was like, yeah, let's do it. So that's how I ended up there.
Wow.
Right? Random happenstance, all of this stuff happening.
That is so cool. And I will say that is, one of the biggest things that's happened in my life was when my wife and I ended up adopting both of our children, and our son is 6 years old, and his birth father is black and his birth mother is white. And so at first we didn't think we didn't think anything of the fact that he was not white. But the fact is, the more we learned about what it means to not be white or not be male in the United States right now, everything that I've only known from personal experience being a white man, there is a whole world that is stacked for me, and it's based on nothing that I've ever done. And there is a whole world of people with perspectives and things to offer that aren't white men, to be blunt. And so I love so much to hear to hear about people who are saying, hey, let's give people a voice and let's bring more people to the table. So I love that. I love what you're saying about that. And it's so cool to hear that TubeBuddy has a culture
they really
that's
embraced
open to
it.
that too.
Yeah. Did you know that there's more CEOs in the world named John than there are women CEOs, period?
Holy moly.
But statistically, which is funny to not even go down this rant, but also women that lead companies, they tend to have companies that have lower turnover and higher employee satisfaction.
Wow. That is so cool. That is so cool. One of the things I've seen you talk about, Shelly, is the concept of multiple streams of income and how creators really need to focus on diversifying their income, not relying just on the one thing or just on AdSense, or God forbid you only rely on AdSense. So how do you start that conversation with creators about saying, hey, have you considered this? Have you considered this? I mean, I know you have multiple streams of income working on your behalf too.
I do. I think it's so important. A couple of things. One, to have wage transparency, period, across all industries. And that includes, what are you getting for sponsorships? What are you getting paid for whatever? Because there's a whole world of creators out there who are getting undercharged, or who are undercharging, who are being taken advantage of, who don't know any better. And I think it's up to us as a collective community to take care of each other and sometimes illuminate. And sometimes you don't have to tell people the exact number, but you can give them a ballpark that would make them guess correctly. And I think it's really important. And I always like to explain to anyone I work with that it's a revenue pie and that you should have slices that make up your entirety, and you should never have one of the whole thing. And so, because if you were a child channel, especially before COPPA happened, and all of your money came from AdSense, and then it literally went down to pennies. People and channels were laying off entire teams. They couldn't pay bills. They had problems because they only had one stream of income. And so I was like, I never want that to happen. I've seen people who are making six figures through something like Amazon and affiliates and associates, and they got kicked out of the program. So what would you do if that was the only thing that you had? You would never want that. And in fact, I always say that AdSense especially should be the dessert and not the entree, because you just never know what could happen with that. You could have a couple of strikes happen. All of a sudden, you're not even in the partner program anymore. So I always encourage people, many, many slices is always better than one big chunk.
So people can hear that and they say, okay, well, this makes sense. How do I even begin to wrap my head around that? How do you help your people think about that and move forward?
One of the first things, especially if someone says, I want to be a full-time creator and not do a 9-to-5, because you need to clarify, some people don't want to quit their 9-to-5 jobs, and YouTube is a fun hobby, and it's all dessert for them. And so one, you need to be very clear on what do you need to live? What do you need to be happy? What do you need to sustain a current lifestyle that you have? And so if you have a dollar amount, then you start working backwards, and you're like, okay, what are you currently making now? And then you list out all of the slices, and you're like, okay, even if you go by percentage and you say you're making $200 a month and it's 25%, 25%, 25%, and whatever else, then you're like, what do we need to get that number to make it so that you get to your dollar amount? And then sometimes it's easier to work backwards, because for some people it might be then strategically thinking, what would I be better at, doing one-on-one services or hiring out myself to other people with skills that I'm good at? Beefing up affiliate marketing and joining more programs, trying to get sponsorships and having a specific rate. Once you kind of think about that as a whole, it's easier to kind of work backwards, I think. And so I would always encourage people to also take inventory. What is stuff that I'm really good at? What is stuff that I'm fast at? What is stuff that I'm knowledgeable at? What could I monetize? And then it becomes really, really easy, or easier, should I say, to start thinking about how you're going to make up your slices of revenue pie.
Okay. So what's that look like for you?
Actually, if people are wondering, I'm very transparent with my numbers.
Okay.
And so I do a live stream every month called the Monthly Revenue Report, and I just talk about all the money that I make, because I'm trying to also dispel these ideas that people think, oh, you have a fairly successful YouTube channel, you must be raking it in, because so many people don't understand the way even that AdSense and RPM and CPM work, because it could be that I'm in a niche where I used to, and we could talk about this too, where I actually had 2.5 million views on my channel that I basically deleted overnight because I didn't want to be known for iMovie and video editing tutorials anymore. So I privated all of those videos, and it was driving 95% of my traffic and 85% of my revenue. But like I tell people, like I can make almost as much money as I was because the iMovie stuff was $2 CPM, but the stuff I'm talking about now, which is YouTube advice in the creator economy, is $11 CPM. So I don't need as many views to make the same amount of money. So if anyone is interested in that, you can tune in. It's called the Monthly Revenue Report, but I break it down from all of my affiliates that I have, the sponsorship programs, if I have any, the different things. Like I have an Etsy shop for digital items and physical items. I have a course that I created, which is another way that you can make money by packaging up your knowledge. I do consultations and coaching. So that's another service that I have for one-to-one. And then I have my ad revenue, and then I've got my Twitch revenue, and I've got like, so I break it all down and let people know. And then I have like my Amazon money that I make from being as part of the associates program or the influencer program over there. So I'm very transparent with all of it. I actually make way more on Amazon than I do on everything else combined, actually.
How so?
Well, through the influencer program. So if you are shopping on an Amazon page and you see like the little videos underneath, sometimes about where the reviews and questions are, those are people in the influencer program. And if you watch enough of that video and then decide to purchase that item, they get commission. So once you're an Amazon associate, you can apply for the additional layer program. This is the influencer program. And then they have a few requirements where once you submit a few product videos and then they're graded and approved, it's kind of like being approved for AdSense, then it means your videos could show up then on the product pages of those items that you are submitting for. And so then you get a separate revenue piece for all of those sales.
Very cool. Very cool. And if you're watching or listening to this and you haven't heard the interview that I did with Dan Courier talking about building your own personal freedom through income, we dive into that on that episode too. I'll make sure there's a note in the show notes or on a YouTube card somewhere up here. So that is so cool. And I think there are a lot of people who might be surprised that that stream is the largest one for you.
Yeah.
Is that
significantly larger?
Is that typical from what you've seen? I mean, in terms of people who are getting into the affiliate program with Amazon or the influencer program?
No. Well, and what's funny is up until the influencer program and doing the videos, I was part of the affiliate program, and I don't even think I'd make $20 a month sometimes with Amazon, where you have to make $20 to even get paid out in a month.
Right.
Some months I don't even get money. So I've made so much more using the influencer program than I ever did with the associates.
Okay.
And just linking products. Yeah.
Okay. So just for the big picture. So
yeah.
your income streams at this point. So you talked about, well, you have AdSense revenue, you have your Etsy shop for digital products, you have a course that you sell on your own platform or on your own site, presumably?
It's on Thinkific, yeah. Okay, but if you go to, it's hosted on Thinkific, but if you went to iMovie Made Easy, it would take you to the page.
Sure. And then you have consultations and coaching one-on-one. Yeah. You have Twitch and you have Amazon Influencer. Missing anything?
Well, AdSense.
Okay, AdSense, yeah.
AdSense, Super Chats, and all of the memberships, all that gets rolled in.
Okay, very cool. Yeah.
Oh, and I also make a little bit of money by doing consultations and speaking for other people. So some people have like a YouTube course, and so I'll come in and I'll do like a webinar for them about this type of information, or even maybe TubeBuddy type of information. And I also do consultations for some brands and businesses that also want to learn, like, how do I set up TubeBuddy, or how do I do these types of things? So just taking stuff that you're already knowledgeable in and basically selling that as a service.
Sure. So for the people who are hearing this saying, holy moly, all of the things, where do I even begin? What's a step forward to start getting more slices of the pie like that?
Yeah, I would say sometimes working one-on-one and affiliate programs are going to be some of the easiest things to do, because you schedule a Zoom call, you schedule a calendar call with someone, and you just talk to them about what you're knowledgeable in what they want to learn about, right?
Mhm.
Something like trying to create a course can be more difficult because if you haven't worked one-on-one with some people, if you haven't made some videos and understood what some of the questions and commonly, hurdles and obstacles that people come up against, then it's going to be harder for you to package a knowledge and sell it out there if you're not even sure yet that people want it slash that is the problem that you're solving.
Right.
So sometimes I would say I would wait a little bit longer on a course, but you can take something like even if you packaged everything up, created a little PDF and sold that for 99 cents or something as a Kindle type direct publishing type of thing, just probably working one-on-one with people and affiliate is probably the easiest way to start.
That is some super, super smart ways to think about this. Because, man, how many people say, hey, I know all this stuff about this area, and I'm just going to make a course about this because this is what I know about. And the fact of the matter is, people may not want to know about this part. They want to know about this part. And your course doesn't even address that.
Right.
So for the people, just to piggyback on what you're saying, I mean, there are a lot of people who are already in online groups around their shared interests, and they say, hey, well, I know about this specific area, and I end up asking and answering people's questions a lot. So if you can get that within a context of one-on-one consultation, awesome, especially if you can get paid for it.
Yeah, I've seen people in Facebook groups, especially like live streaming, and like, I'm so frustrated. I don't know how to use this software. I will pay someone to help me set up my scenes and set up I just don't understand why my camera's not working. And someone in the group is like, yeah, schedule a call with me. I would be happy to help you over a Zoom call or a whatever call. And you can pay me via Venmo or PayPal. It's that simple for a lot of people.
100%. And even if you haven't gotten to that point, if you are in a place where you're always answering questions, even then you have more of an idea of what questions people are actually asking.
Yep.
Very cool.
Yeah. And I think some people forget that even skills that they have in their day job are skills that people want to learn about. So let's just say you happen to be an Excel guru and you know how to do pivot tables and you know how to do all of these cool references to other sheets and stuff like that. You could actually be paid from someone to basically hand you a spreadsheet and be like, can you make it pretty for me? Or can you teach me how to make it pretty? Can you teach me how to do these skills? You could do a one-on-one session with someone and be like, let me show you how to excel at Excel, whatever it is, and you can and you can make money off that. Even if you're not, let's say, a content creator and you're not making tutorials on Excel, you could certainly use your own expertise and sell that. Even someone in, say, beauty and fashion, where they're like, oh, I don't know how I would make money because a lot of people can't. And I would be like, oh, but if you were a beauty and fashion blogger and you're able to put outfits together, just like they have on the Pinterest, outfit inspirations, you could create those boards, but with all clothing that is affiliate linked, or with programs that you work with, or someone could contact you for consultations for clothing for a special event that's coming up. That's a one-on-one consultation right there. Or you can go on and then do a live stream on Amazon for clothes that are all available through Amazon. You're getting the Amazon influencer money and the live stream, and perhaps you're even getting sponsored from the clothing companies to feature their clothes on your live stream. So all of this stuff that you can do, people don't think about. And so that's the biggest thing is I want people to be able to open their eyes and minds a little bit to other ways that they can make money that they weren't thinking of before.
One of the things that I know is near and dear to your heart is the idea of getting more out of what you have and being efficient and repurposing things.
Yes.
And
yes.
for people who are listening to this conversation and saying, this sounds amazing, I can see the need to get more slices of the income pie. There is so much to be done. How on earth do I even begin to wrap my head around this? And what do you say to that cry for help?
It starts with making content to start with, because you can't do anything about repurposing your content until you have content. Now, there's a couple things that you could keep in mind if you are going to be making content and knowing that you want to repurpose it later. if you think about the fact that, like, let's say we're doing a wide shot like this, and you know you could split down the middle and then start making shorts or whatever else if you want to make sure that it's landscape so that you can take your vertical part later. Um, it's the easiest thing that you can do. So I always say for some people, think about it this way. If you did a live stream of frequently asked questions for your brand or business, what you could then later do is strip out every single individual question answer and make each one a video on your channel and SEO the heck out of it and do all the things that you want to. And you could take each one of those videos, embed it into a blog post on your frequently asked question or inside of the frequently asked questions on your website, also driving more SEO to it because that gets indexed for Google. Then you can take that same video, and if it's under, 60 seconds or under 3 minutes or 10 minutes, you can throw it up on TikTok. You can then take that same video, and if it is vertical and you can cut it down to 60 seconds or less, there is a myriad of places that you can put it. So whether that's Pinterest for IG, like IG Reels, you can put it on Facebook, you can put it, like, there is no shortage of places that you can put it. And if you think about it, if you're getting 100,000 views from just reposting some of your vertical videos on all these different platforms, like, that makes your phone ring if you're a business. That makes, reservations come in if you're a business, and it's overwhelming. So some things that you can do, have some systems in place, like a checklist, even if it's like, okay, Monday, I'm going to record the live stream. Tuesday, I'm going to break it out into chunks. Wednesdays, I'm going to make sure I post one on TikTok and on Instagram. And then the next day, it's going to be Pinterest and whatever. I think some people get overwhelmed because they believe they need to do all the things, all the platforms on the same day. And that is overwhelming for people. So if you just break it down, if you think about it, you could be posting content every day from the same content that you recorded once. And then you could take that and you could say, if there's some great quote, you could make a quote outable or an audiogram out of it, or then throw it up as a tweet. I mean, it's really easy to repurpose what you have. You could take something, then like throw it into Descript, something like that. And then you can take out some of the chunks that you like best, and you could create all sorts of like pretty infographics out of it. Like, there's really no shortage of what you can do with the same piece of content.
And for people not familiar with Descript, what is Descript and what does it do?
Oh, Descript is basically, how would we say it? It is so many things, because you can give it an audio or video file and it can create a transcription for you. You can then edit your audio by, like you would like a text or Google Doc. You can take out words or replace words. You can train it with your voice, so you can actually then put in a script and it will repeat it to you as yourself, which is kind of a little creepy.
Literally create words out of your mouth that you never actually said real time.
You could. Yeah. If you said a word accidentally and you meant to say some other word, you just type it and it has your voice and it will change it for you. So it's pretty neat. You could also then create, a lot of people use it for editing their podcasts. It's because sometimes you flub up or mess up in a podcast. You want to change the word. It will do that. You can export the MP3. You can export basically the text file if you wanted to use it for an SRT, or I think they do VTT file for some places. So you can do all of these things with this same file. And so then when you have this text file and you're staring at it, it's really easy to copy and paste the thing that you want, create the audiogram from that, create a sound snippet, MP3 file from that, or throw out just like all of this. And then imagine what you could do if you threw in Jarvis, like the AI generated thing. You could create a script really, really quickly, given some points. You could throw it into Descript. You could have it with your voice. You could throw it out as a podcast episode. It would take a couple hours to do all this content. Right? It's kind of like, it blows your mind. It blows your mind.
Man, oh man, oh man. So,
the possibilities are endless.
Yeah. So what in your estimation, and how do you start thinking about what gets the biggest bang for your buck? Or does that completely, it's not necessarily biggest bang for the buck, although sometimes it is financial, but what the biggest return for your effort put into there? Or does that just completely depend on the person and their content? and their
I think it
audience?
completely depends because actually I had someone that I was talking with and they're a real estate agent. For some reason, I do really well with real estate agents, maybe because I used to be one, which is weird because I don't talk about it, but I have a lot of real estate agents that follow me. And they were complaining about how they had 56 followers and they started with 23 a couple months ago. And I was like, first of all, you doubled your growth. Let's frame it
That's
right.
amazing.
You doubled your growth. Congratulations. Like, second of all, like, if one of the people in your area contacted you, made your phone ring, you got a listing, or you sold them a house for $1 million, and with your commission, you just made $25,000, do you care if they hit the subscribe button or not? No. So you need to be able to define success because for a lot of people, they're looking at the wrong metric. They're looking at the subscriber number, the view number, right? And it's not always about the most views, it's about the right views from the right viewers. And I was like, do you really think that you would care if they did, or do you think before you sign the contract with them to be the agent or buy a house that you were like, but did you hit the subscribe button and the bell? You wouldn't care because you know what talks at the end of the day? Because subscribers don't like, you don't make money every time someone hits the thing. You make it when you sell them a course or you book a call with them or you have them buy you like a house with you, right? And she's like, "Yeah, I guess so." And then I'm like, "Then what are you worried about?" And she's like, "Well, I actually did get a lead for a real estate transaction in my area." And I'm like, "And you have 56 subscribers, and so you don't even know like what that could turn into, and you're worried about the subscriber number. I think you're worried about the wrong thing. You want to make your phone ring and you want to like close a deal. So you have to be able to define success. And I think for some people, they really have to do that first and then keep sight of it.
That is really important because it is so easy to say, oh, just more views, more subscribers, bigger numbers. That's the goal. That is not the goal in and of itself. And sometimes it's not the goal at all.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have a very specific content niche that is only that only truly speaks to a small segment of people in the world, you should be worried if you get some kind of monster influx of people because that chances are they're not actually joining you for
they're not the people that you want viewing, right? And if you're a brand or business and you are exhausted by the amount of times that you have to answer customer service calls about certain things, if you created a series of videos about this is how you install it, this is how you use it, this is how you uninstall it, this is what happens when you have a problem, whatever these frequently asked questions are, and then someone contacts you and says, I have this problem, instead of you worrying late and like taking time away from your family and being like, oh my gosh, I have to handle this. You'd be like, watch this video. And if it doesn't answer your question, contact me. And they don't contact you because their answer is in the video. You know what I mean? Like the peace of mind that you get and the time back that you get to be able to focus on money-making activities instead of ones that take it away. That's what the videos are for. That's why you do it.
And I think there are a lot of people who can very easily lose sight of that thing that you just said, the income generating activities. And for the typical creator, what would you say are the most important revenue generating activities that most creators would benefit from?
Affiliate marketing, for one, but because affiliate marketing usually comes long before sponsorships do. Affiliate marketing is actually, you usually don't get very good at it unless you're using the product, talking about the product, loving the product, understanding the product. And those types of things and relationships lead to the sponsorship sometimes of those affiliate companies. I would say there's a couple things that you can do. One is you make a list of programs, softwares, clothing, whatever that you actually use. And then you also have a list of brands you would love to work with in the future. And if there are things that actually cross, then you do something like you go on to, headhunter.io or whatever the site is, and you start looking up the emails. You go onto LinkedIn and you start finding who are the PR, who are the people at those companies, who could you be tagging every time you do a post, who could you be talking about positively to then send them that link and send them a video being like, I love your product. I've been talking about you. I would love to further this relationship. Do you have an affiliate program? Those types of conversations where you start like that, coming from a place of value where you've already then created content and can show it to them, can go a long way with some brands for creating affiliate or possibly sponsorships in the future. You know what I mean? So I feel like people are always chasing that first sponsorship, that first brand deal, that first whatever. And I'm like, well, if you have no influence or you have no trust with your audience, what good is that? It's not going to help you out. So I feel like affiliate marketing is usually one of the easiest and best ways to get into it, but only with products that actually like, and trust and use, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There are so many things to consider. And I know that you mentioned, I know you mentioned your live streams where you break all this stuff down. What kind of content are you releasing these days, and where can people find out more about you and how you can help them?
These days, because I have had a content pivot shift, because just like everything else in my life, I want to do it all. I want to talk about it all, right? Which doesn't always equate well to YouTube. And so these days, I talk about how to share what you love with the world through a video. So how do you do YouTube smartly and make money? So making money while doing YouTube. And it's not about making money on YouTube with AdSense. It's about the revenue pie. So that's what's important to me, is helping people being able to live the lives they want to, sharing what they love with the world, but not going broke, not being that starving artist, being able to make money while they do that. And they can find me on Shelly Saves a Day on YouTube, or, everywhere under Shelly Saves a Day.
Make sure to connect with Shelly in the link in the show notes or the video description. And if you like the idea of applying these kind of concepts to your own content, then consider joining us in the Green Room. The Green Room is our monthly membership here at Story Greenlight that's all about helping creators like you unlock the next level of impact in your content and in yourself. You can try out the Green Room for a month for free at the link in the show notes or in the video description. I'll see you there.